Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Today I'm going to be reviewing possibly my favorite all-time dungeon module. Basically, it's tied with White Plume Mountain. But this one I've actually run as a dungeon master close to 20 times. There was a point where I would run this every Halloween night for whatever gaming group I had, kind of as a one-shot because, as I'll go into in a moment, it literally can be dropped down anywhere because Caliban, that's the dungeon by David A. Hargrave, dungeon number 1 of 4 for the Arduin Grimoire role-playing game and supplement rule sets. Caliban is literally, as the man says, a Flying Dutchman of dungeons. It literally teleports from one dimension or reality to another, hoping to ensnare whatever it can, whether it be an adventuring party or wandering monsters. That's kind of how it populates itself, I'm guessing. And it then, of course, with its traps and its tricks and its, monsters that it's lured into it, then, basically tries to kill them and eat them. I don't know if it sucks out their soul or, those gory details are really not what's important. The important part of this dungeon is that you can literally drop it into any campaign setting, any location, anywhere you want at any time. And I actually have 2 copies. This is my original copy from when I was about 13 years old. I picked this up, and as you can tell, yes, I colored in the cover and the back cover as well. I was young and foolish, and if I would have known back then what I know now, I would have bought 10 copies of this and just put them away with my comic book collection. This dungeon, and here's the other version. I think this is actually an earlier print, and it's in much nicer condition. Unfortunately, when I got this copy, I didn't get the world famous artifact and monster cards. It comes with a set of 8 artifacts. These are actually artifacts. That's actually an outfit, and that's another outfit. And they're very powerful items, all of them. I mean, really powerful. I guess you would lump them in with the artifacts as per the Dungeon Master's Guide. And then it comes with this set of monsters. Let me turn those around. Yes, I colored them too. And I kick myself every time I look at them. Of course, my favorite was this monster right here and this monster right here. Let's see if we can get a really good close-up of it. This cyborg, because it does have a human brain inside the head, is pretty deadly. And if you're not a sci-fi guy and you don't like to mix your sci-fi with or your techno with your fantasy, you can just drop this monster out. But then it's got this lovely here, and it's called a war wheel. And I don't really know that it was actually in the dungeon. I think I just always threw it in there. But it's this gigantic wheel with an eye on either side of it. I don't know if you can see it because of the way I colored it. But it's just hysterical in its ridiculousness. And I actually want to make this as a 3D model monster. Not 3D print, but just make some sort of representation of it. Because I think once I find the wheel, I could, and the spikes, I could milliput the rest of it. Because it does have a couple of tentacles, one on either side, to grab you. I don't know what it does after it grabs you because it doesn't have a mouth. Maybe the spikes, suck out your bodily fluids or something. But it looks to be made out of metal, and it's just a ridiculous monster. And then there's this little guy right here, and I do mean little. If you notice, that's a human for scale. I don't know if you can see that, but it's this gigantic serpent that's just ridiculous in length, and of course it does breathe fire. And it's just ridiculous monsters. Arduin is probably just as famous for its incredible monsters as it is for its artifacts and spells. For me, more so than the world itself. Well, the world is a wonderful, wonderful place. Early on, I didn't have books that had maps in it or had a lot of detail in it at first. Later on, I would get the other books that had the geographical locations and the breakdowns of the governments and things like that. But early on, that information just wasn't available for the first 20 years of my life as a game master, I only had the original trilogy, and it has some stuff in there, about the locations and about the world of Arduin, but just not enough for me to really be able to, sink my teeth into it. And now, thanks to Emperor's Choice, they're bringing all that back, all of the things, including these modules, which the set of 4 plus 2 plus a seventh actual dungeon is all available in one book called Vaults of the Weaver, and I'm planning on getting that real soon because I really want to be able to put these away and leave them, bagged and boarded for a long time. There's no need to go into them if I can buy a soft cover book with all those modules in it. I don't know if the art cards are in there. I'm still waiting for an answer back on that. But rest assured, when I get that book, I will do a review on it because there's 3 other dungeon adventures in that book that I'm completely clueless about. I've never run through them, never heard of them until literally maybe a couple of weeks ago. I might have read about it a long time ago, but I never had access to it because Emperor's Choice was kind of in a hiatus mode. But the Vaults of the Weaver, like I said, it has 7 adventures in it in a nice, bound edition. It's not going to be as nostalgic as these copies that I have, and I have the other modules, and I'll be doing reviews on them next month. Although I may, go back and forth between the other volumes and the modules themselves. But now that Emperor's Choice is risen from the ashes, let me put that in there so I can. All of their products will be available. The trilogy is now in a hardback edition with everything reorganized, so all the monsters are in one section, not in 3 separate books. Things like that. So I'm going to be grabbing a copy of that so I can also retire those books. Pretty much everything, as far as I can tell, will be available, including more of these monster and artifact cards, and I believe they're monster and artifact cards that I don't actually have. Maybe they're reprints of these. If they are, that'll be great because then I can slide some back where they belong with these volumes. But there you have it. This dungeon is chock full of monsters that your players will probably never have heard of, artifacts and relics and treasures that will blow their minds, spell-casting monsters and traps, and of course his favorite, illusionary prismatic walls, and just, sneaky little things. Oh, before I let you guys go, let me give you a real quick look at what you can expect. Each floor only has 10 rooms drawn out. As you can see, there are a lot of rooms and a lot of things in here, but only 10 rooms are keyed and coded with what's in them, leaving you room to modify the dungeon however you want, kind of like B1 Expedition into the Unknown, that famous dungeon from TSR that left a lot of blank spaces, for you to put your own monsters and your own treasures in there. And just as a little trip down memory lane before I let you guys go, here's level 1, and you notice I actually destroyed rooms. I sharpied them out of existence because when I ran this dungeon, every time the players were victorious, I would take away the dungeon, acting as if each little square on the grid map was a hit point. And the more successful my players were, the less dungeon insides there were. So someday this would be completely black and they would have killed Caliban. But as you can see, no one has been able to do that yet. And I'm probably not going to do that anymore on this copy, just because, if I did Sharpie it all out, let's see if I can actually turn these pages. You can see, well, it didn't really bleed through because of the paper, I guess. But, I did enough scribbling in this dungeon and, decreased its value by probably 100%. The only person this one will be valuable to is me, but that's okay because I've written this into my will. This one gets buried with me. But there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane and this trip into some of the best dungeons that have ever been created because they let you, the Dungeon Master, take the reins and be in control of whatever you want. Other than, the premise of it being dimensional traveling adventure eating monster spewing dungeon, it lets you do whatever you want with it. You know, put whatever treasure, put whatever monsters, put whatever traps. You know, occasionally I'll use this also as a place for people to meet new NPCs or for new players to join the party. You know, when there's somebody who wants to join the game, and you know, you just have them, you know, have the players rescue that person from this dungeon, and that's their backstory. Is they wandered into Caliban and couldn't get out, and then the party, you know, rescues them, and they all try to survive this monster of a dungeon. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the heck out of this if you can get a chance to get it in your hot little hands. Say hi to everybody over at Emperor's Choice, especially George. He's a fantastic guy. And we will see you guys Sunday for the show-off show, the last episode of the month. And until then, have a great weekend. Love you guys. See you later.